Hey, it's Mr. Engstrom. Let's take a look at your homework. This is number 22 on your homework. Now it says solve each triangle. When it says solve each triangle, we need to find all the missing parts. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start labeling these missing parts. Okay, so where's my pen? Here we go. So I'm going to call that X. I'm going to call that Y. Okay. Now I'm looking for some other things too. It says find all the missing parts. So actually I need this angle right here. So I'm going to do the easiest thing first. I think the angle is pretty easy. Okay. So I'm going to say that the measure of angle B is, now all three angles of a triangle add up to 180. I already got a 90-degree angle, that's C, and A is 24. So I know B and A together have to be 90. So the way I'm going to get the measure of angle B is 90 minus 24. Okay, and 90 minus 24, that's 66 degrees. Okay, so we got that the measure, put my answers over here, the measure of angle B equals 66 degrees. Now we'll find the missing sides. I called them X and Y. Now we can't use A squared plus B squared equals C squared because we only have one of them. In fact, once we find one, we can find the other, and then we can use A squared plus B squared equals C squared, but I'm not even going to do that because if I find X and I find X wrong and I use A squared plus B squared equals C squared to find Y, then I'm going to mess up Y too. So I'm going to use the trig to do that. Okay. So first let's find X. So I'm going to use this angle right here. I don't have to. I could pick the other one, angle B, because I already know it at 66 degrees. But I'm going to use the one that's given to me, 24. I see that X is the leg opposite that angle and 14 is the hypotenuse. Now we do have some units here. Well, that's miles. That's one big triangle. All right. So here we go. So we have the opposite leg and hypotenuse, so we're going to use sine. So here's how we start. Remember to show your work. Don't just leave it blank and say I did it in my calculator. That's not going to cut it. So you got to do a couple things. One, you have to show me the equation with the trig function in it. So sine 24 degrees equals, and it's opposite leg over hypotenuse. Then the second thing you have to do is to solve for X. And to do that, all we have to get rid of over here on this side is got to get rid of that divided by 14. So we multiply 14 on both sides. And 14 divided by 14, that's 1. So sometimes we say, oh, they cancel. But it looks like they disappeared because 14 divided by 14 is 1. 1 times X is X. So now we see that X equals 14 times the sine of 24 degrees. And we put that in our calculator. So that's what I get when I put it in my calculator, but it does say round to the nearest tenth. Okay? And so we look at this one here, at this one, since that is a 5 or bigger, I take this 5.6, I make it 5.7. And so X is something that I put in the problem. So what I would probably say in my answer is segment BC equals, or the length of segment BC. Now we wouldn't put a bar above it because that's the name, segment BC, and we want the distance between B and C. The correct symbol there is just simply BC. So BC equals, or maybe better, wavy equal sign, approximately 5.7. Oh, and in context, weird context, miles. It's a big triangle. Okay, so there we go. Now we have to find what I called Y. So I called segment AC Y, and in the answer I would say AC is approximately, okay? But I'm going to call it Y for now. All right, so I go back to this triangle and I look at that 24-degree angle. I'm not going to use X because what if I messed X up? I don't want to use that and then mess up Y. So I'm going to use the Y, which is the adjacent leg, and 14, which is the hypotenuse. So I'm going to use cosine. So the cosine of 24 degrees equals the adjacent leg Y over the hypotenuse 14. Of course, we would need to solve for Y now. We're going to multiply a 14 on both sides. And now Y equals 14 times the cosine of 24. So I grab my calculator and I put that in my calculator. 14 times the cosine of 24 degrees. And that's what I get in my calculator. Again, we have to round to the nearest tenth. Always look at the instructions. It does say round answers to the nearest tenth. And so we look here. That's a 5 or bigger, so I bump that up. So I say that it's going to be approximately 12.8. So AC is approximately 12.8 miles. And there's my answer. So the answer is going to be all three of these, and make sure that you show work. Have a great day. I will see you tomorrow.